are too good to be broke, whether that's financially, emotionally, spiritually, or howeverly. Welcome or welcome back. It's your favorite mental health specialist, High Guidance, and that is what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Now, with that being said, because there's no right or wrong way to heal yourself, always and only take what resonates as well as leave the rest. So if it doesn't apply, then it's not in line and it's not for you, so don't force it. As well as grab your pens, grab your paper, and be prepared to take notes. In this video, we're going to go over and discuss why you and I are actually too good to be entertaining certain people, places, and things, and how this doesn't make us a bad person, but allows us to have morals, integrities, and standards, as well as some recommendations, some reminders, and disclaimers. There is this misconception that when you want to elevate, that you want to become the best version of yourself, that you think you are better than people. And I'm going to go ahead and raise my right hand and put my hand over our heart and say out loud that you are not better than people, specifically because you're not equal to them. You don't need to compare yourself to them, but we can be better than certain actions, certain mindsets, and certain behaviors. Why? Because it's not who you are and it's not in your character. And that's the first thing that you need to be aware of. When you were raised with love and respect and integrity, there are just certain things that you're just not willing to do. There are certain things you're not willing to compromise. There are just certain things you're not willing to say or do just to be liked or just to be needed or just to feel valid by people, places, and things. And that is okay. So the second thing that you need to be aware of is learning how to validate yourself. When you have integrity, when you have standards, you need to stick to them. The people and the places and things who can afford them will afford them, and those who don't, they won't be compatible with you. It's very simple. There's nothing wrong with thinking highly of yourself. There's nothing wrong with having respect for yourself. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be around people who are loving and confident and kind and nice. And I said loving and kind and nice because I know from my personal experience, what has helped me along my healing journey was to continue to act the way that I was raised, which was out to love. Rather, it was one person loving me loving myself, the gods, the ancestors, the universe, take what resonates, leave the rest, because we're not here to force religion or spirituality, the bees, the trees, or the wind. You being loving, you being kind does not make you naive, does not make you stupid, does not make you an idiot. Only naive, ignorant, and unaware people who have not experienced those loves or those capacity are going to think, oh, you being nice makes you weak. What is somebody being respectful, a human being, a heart that they've been born with, having emotions? Why does that make that person less of a person? That's like when people say, oh, being a good person doesn't get you anywhere in life. To who? Crocker? Plankton? Doofenshmirtz? Like, why do you want to be around people who don't even respect themselves? Why do you want to be associated in relationships with people who get upset because you pour into yourself, you take care of yourself, you take care of the things that you have, you want to feel loved, you want to be appreciated? Stop surrounding yourself with people who cannot meet you where you are. You cannot give to people things that they haven't gave themselves. So if people were not taught and shown how to love themselves or shown love, you have to allow them to figure it out for themselves, or they have to be willing to meet you where you are, and vice versa. Stop pouring into people who do not see you or support you in the ways that you do for yourself. Because when you do have high standards, when you can pour into yourself, other people doing things for you is a privilege. You should never feel like you need anybody in your life other than yourself. And if you choose to believe in religion or spirituality, when you have respect for yourself, there are just some things you're not willing to do. That does not make you a bad person. You having standards does not make you better than people. It just means you're better than certain situations. So yes, in the beginning of the video, I stated I am way too good and above to be entertaining certain people, places, and things. And of course, this doesn't take away from times where you had to stoop to people's levels, where you've given people time, energy, and effort. Because let me tell you something, we all have a past. We all have had moments, whether we are high standards or not, where we've got into it with certain people. And I know from experience, the times that I've got into it with people was because I did not need to speak to them. We were not on the same frequency. We weren't even compatible. And a lot of times when you do have high standards and you are just so loving and just so abundant, you feel the need to say certain things. You feel the need to maybe defend yourself. You feel the need to address certain things. And what I've realized is that instead of me taking the time to address certain things, just ask myself, if I'm better than these certain situations, if I know I carry myself, if my character is a certain type of way, do I even need to entertain certain things? And a lot of times you don't need to entertain some things. Sometimes you do have to let people know that just because you are respectful doesn't mean that you're soft. Because I've also, when I did have words with certain people, was to let them know, like, just because I'm respectful, just because I carry myself like a lady, doesn't mean that you just get to talk to me any old type of way. Like, you do have to know when and to pick and choose your battles. And that's number 3 or number 4. Know when to pick and choose your battles, because everything and everybody does not deserve a response. And the more, number 4, the more you practice this, like I said, the more you work on your character, the more you figure out who you want to be, the more you spend time with yourself, the more you realize what's pouring into you and what's draining you, the more and more you'll be able to realize, okay, this doesn't need a reaction. This person wants to provoke me. This person wants me to get out of my character. And I'm telling you guys 100% of the times, and let me know, every single person that you had a negative conflict with or negative experience was somebody you didn't even want to be with. Every single person that I've encountered verbally, right, that I've had, like I said, to just take so much energy from myself. Because I used to be like, oh my gosh, afterwards, I would be like, I'm so disappointed in myself. And I'm big on apologizing. Like, I've had to apologize to people who wouldn't have apologized to me, because once again, it's in my character. Now, some of you are gonna be like, oh, I would never. Then don't. You're not me. You can't do what I do. So worry about yourself. But me personally, like I said, because I'm a lady and I've always been raised to be like such, it was just like, I need to apologize. Why? Because at the end of the day, I do believe in a God, the ancestors in the universe. And I know that when you treat people nasty, that energy comes back to you. I don't want a guilty conscience. I don't want to just be walking around this world acting like you don't get dealt with. I know how things work. Some people don't. Some people do have to learn the hard way. But I've realized, instead of me constantly having to apologize and being disappointed in myself, just realizing what even started this in the first place. So it's like, unfortunately, there are going to be people in this world who don't have any morals. They don't have any integrity. We don't have to judge them, right? Because we're not, like I said, we're not better than the people, like, as a whole, like, as an individual, unless you're, like, comparing yourself. But, like, what people do, like, their characteristics. Like, sometimes you are better than certain people when it comes to how they react and respond and handle things. Like, for example, if you claim to be a grown adult and you know that you can express yourself and articulate yourself without physically getting violent or being aggressive, because we don't condone that. We don't condone that at all. If you constantly have to fight people or yell at people, nobody's going to want to talk to you. Like, I don't want to talk to an adult, at least. And I'm 29. I don't want to talk to adults and I'm having to yell and scream. I don't like that. If that's your vibe, keep it. To me, it's demeaning, it's degrading, and it's just disrespectful. It's disrespectful to yourself and to other people. And like I said, God, but everyone swears up and down. They understand how that works. But I'm going to keep it cute. I don't want to have conversations with people and I'm having to worry about what I say and what I do. No. If we can't converse, and the thing is, if you can't have differences with people, you don't need to speak to them. And that's what I've realized. Every single person I've had to just take time, energy, and effort and just say certain things to them, it was just like, we're not even like, you don't have any integrity. You don't have any respect for yourself, because it's no way you feel comfortable as an adult, regardless of your race, regardless of your gender, regardless of your pronouns, that you feel comfortable talking to people like that. And even if you weren't raised out of love, even if you weren't raised a certain type of way, you know how it makes you feel. You know if someone's yelling at you and screaming at you and fighting at you, that's not something you like. Like, even if you were bullied, like me personally, I've never been bullied, but I've been around, unfortunately, immature men and women. And me personally, because I've known that they were immature, like I said, just because of their actions and how they carry themselves, instead of, like I said, a lot of times going back and forth with them, just keeping my distance. Like, if you can, and that's the part of the recommendations, number 1, avoid them. Avoid people who want to bring out the worst in you. And how do you know? Learn to listen to what people say and watch what they do. Learn to pay attention to how certain people talk to people. And once again, This doesn't mean that you're not going to have moments where you don't get frustrated and you don't get upset, because that's what it is. Like, a lot of people think, once again, that because you have high standards, even myself, people thought that just because I'm cool, calm, and collected, that I don't have emotions and I'm just supposed to take abuse. No, I am allowed to speak up for myself. You are allowed to speak up for yourself. But for me personally, what I've realized is that you don't have to speak up to yourself once you realize that somebody wants you to get out of character. So it's really important that when you're conversing with people, you have to start clocking their tea. You have to start peeping, what is the motive? What is the agenda? What is the intention? What is the purpose of this conversation? What is this purpose of this interaction? What is the purpose of this conversation? The moment you can start clocking people's tea immediately, you can shut it down. So therefore, if they want to be aggressive, if they want to be assertive, if they want to be manipulative, if they want to be narcissistic, if they don't want to listen, because that's another thing too. It's always been people who were so egotistical, right? And a lot of times ignorant, if we're going to be for real, so egotistical that it's either their way or the highway. I don't like having conversations with people who can't acknowledge that they're wrong. I don't like having conversations with people who don't know how to listen. And I don't like having conversations with people who don't respect people, even if they don't have the same perspective. Just because you haven't experienced it, just because it's unfamiliar to you, doesn't mean it's not true. That's like, for example, you guys, this is a personal thing. I don't like Taco Bell. Just because I don't like Taco Bell doesn't mean that I have to be rude and disrespectful to people who eat Taco Bell. If you like Taco Bell, that's your business. Me personally, I'm not a fan. It's simple. It's very simple. If you don't like something, no one's asking you to. You don't have to, but it's when you start to get disrespectful. And of course, like I said, everybody has a past, but it's like once you decide that you want to continue to have certain characteristics, continue to work on that. And don't allow people, another thing too, lastly, don't allow you having an interaction with people who wanted you to get out your character to make you feel less of a person. Because I realized that a lot of people, once they get a reaction out of you, or once they provoke you, or once they try to blame the victim on you, once they want to have whatever it is, they'll try to be like, oh, she's not holy, she's not a lady, she's not as godly as she claims, because if she was godly, that's not true. You're narcissistic, you're abusive, you're controlling, you're egotistical, you're shallow, and you don't have respect for yourself. And you have to realize that nobody who tries to manipulate you, nobody who tries to gaslight you, nobody who tries to control you is superior or intelligent or even attractive. All to y'all shade. There's nothing attractive. It's nothing intelligent about that. And you have to realize that if you aren't intelligent, you need to start acting like it. You're not less of a person because you've had to let unintelligent people, or people who lack morals, or people who lack respect for themselves, that we're not the same. Just because you choose to do that, I'm not going to do that with you. Because it's like when you are respectful, you are patient with people. You are able to have conversations. You are able to disagree with people. It's not the end of the world. But once people start to get physical or assertive or aggressive, you need to stop. So you do need to have the mindset that you are better than certain things, not people, but certain behaviors, and continue to practice on it. Not just that, you don't have nothing to prove. Once you realize that you are a good person and God knows that you're a good person, the ancestors and the universe knows that you're a good person, you will continue to work on that. And I'm telling you guys from experience, the more you continue to work on yourself, the more you're able to clock people's tea, the more you're able to be intentional with your conversations and putting your time, energy, and effort, the less and less you're going to have these encounters. And when you do, unfortunately, have these encounters, because you do have people that are crazy, you do have people that are stalkers, you do have people who want problems, you do have people who are lost, you do have people who are angry and hate themselves and are miserable. You are going to have people who try, but you'll be able to read it. You'll be able to see it. You'll be able to realize, okay, does this need a reaction? Does this need a response? Or do I need to avoid them? Do I need to ignore them? Do I need to block them? Do I need to unfollow them? Do I need to not even bring it about? But it's like pick and choose your battles. When you are bigger than the plot, you have to be intentional, especially when you have stuff going for yourself. All the people and the places and things who wanted to do all this stuff and wanted me to get out of character and wanted me to be rah, they have nothing going for themselves. And I'm not talking about materialistically. I'm talking about spiritually, babe. You all are not at peace. When you are at peace with yourself, you're not out here causing problems with people. just because you disagree with them, or just because your energy is not on the same frequency as them, or just because they know something that you don't know. Anybody who's quick to tell you, oh, well, you think you know everything, I only know what I know. Just because you don't feel intelligent, that has nothing to do with me. Do not perceive or allow people to deflect and project onto you, okay? Because you are too good. And once you say this out loud, once you affirm that you are too good to be doing certain things, you're, like I said, going to be intentional about who you surround yourself with. Because what I've realized out of the 29 years of my life is, like I said, once I started to realize what I was doing and where I was at and what I should be doing and what I shouldn't be doing, it gets a lot more simpler. It becomes a lot more clearer about the people and the places and things, because you don't get to control people. Like, I'm not here to control anybody. You don't have to convince anybody. You don't have to force people to understand you and get you. Those who are going to get it are going to get it, and those who don't. And once somebody decides that they're willing to misunderstand you, that they don't want to be for you, let them. Nobody, like I said, nobody's telling you to be here. That's like on this account. I talk about positivity, healing, and confidence, and love and light. There are some people in this world who are like, oh, I don't want to be loving. Oh, everyone can't be nice. I don't want to be kind. Okay, take your funky and stay over. Like, I don't want you around me anyways. That's your energy, babe. That's not cute. Especially, like I said, as an adult. Now, if you're younger than the age of 25, it's like, okay, your frontal lobe maybe hasn't developed. Maybe you don't care about life. Maybe you haven't lived enough life to experience. But as a grown adult, absolutely not, no. Absolutely not, no. And like I said, if you have your moments where you slip up, okay, cool. That doesn't make you less of a person. And that's another thing. Just don't be out here giving your time, energy, and effort to people and places and things once you realize they're distractions, or they have limitations, or that, like I said, they just need control. And it's so, like I said, it's so embarrassing. And that's why you're better than certain situations, because you wouldn't intentionally try to sabotage yourself to hurt other people. There are some people in this world who have no problem self-destructing themselves and self-destructing everybody else. And that's not it. So if you guys have questions, comments, concerns about being better than certain situations, how we should be reacting, responding, how to not be so angry, not be so reactive, let me know. Let me know your experience. Like, have you had to realize that you are sometimes better than certain situations? Like, your character does outweigh the environment. And if you know that you carry yourself a certain type of way, like, you can pour into people. Like, just because you know certain things or having certain experiences, like I said, doesn't mean you're better than that person as a whole. But like, let's just say if somebody's quick to be like, oh, I'm finna fight you because you looked at me weird, and you know you're not somebody that wants to fight people because of them looking at you weird. Like, you don't, like I said, have to, like I said, look down on people. You don't have to have your nose turned up, but you could just let them know, like, that's not how I communicate. And if people want to call you names because you don't want to be aggressive and assertive, okay, like, are you for real? Like, you want to get nasty because somebody said something to you that you didn't like? Just say that you didn't like it or you didn't agree with it. But to call people's names and to be cussing and to be physically, like, I'm telling you, nobody has nothing going for themselves. Like, when you're an adult, you're worried about paying your phone bill. You're worrying about having running water. You're worrying about your rent being paid, or your HOA fees, or your mortgage. Like, there are real things that are really important for you to be focusing on, other than people just not wanting to. And I'm not talking about other people who weren't taught and shown. Like, if you weren't taught and shown how to have integrity and how to be, you know, respectful, like I said, I have 900 videos for you to watch. Nobody's here to judge you. But I'm talking about people who've made up in their mind that they don't care. There are some people in this world, unfortunately, that don't want to care, and they're entitled to. But it's like, once you realize that somebody doesn't care about themselves and they don't want to respect themselves, you need to avoid them and separate yourself. And if you have to work with them, realize you're in an environment and you don't need to be there forever. If you have to go to school with them, only speak when spoken to. And when you have to, like I said, do your best, whether you have to listen to music, whether you have to have things going on for yourself, like hobbies, extracurricular activities, etc. But eventually you can't stay there. And even with family members, once you realize that certain people are willing to be disrespectful and talk to you any old type of way, and they're not willing to seek assistance, therapy, go to God, ancestors, whatever, like, they're not willing to see a psychiatrist, because that's what it is too, all to y'all shade, leave it alone, okay? Love you, bye. You are loved. Until next time, peace.